So I've been challenged to the ALS bucket dump, and you never challenge a medicinal chemist to something that's like this, to raise awareness without him raising some awareness about it. So before I dump ice on my head, I do want to talk about what ALS is. ALS itself is amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, also known as ALS. It has a better known name in the United States, known as Lou Gehrig's disease, named after the baseball player. Lou Gehrig, who played for the Yankees, phenomenal baseball player, developed ALS and ended up succumbing to the disease about 2 years after his retirement from baseball. Now, ALS is a few things you should know about it. Okay, first thing you should know, all right, it's not Ebola, it's ALS, which means that it's not contagious. All right. So that means if you know somebody who has ALS, just know that they are not contagious. And although their body begins failing, their immune system is generally okay, and you don't have to really watch yourself around them. Okay, you just watch their symptoms, and it's a degenerative disease of muscle, a muscle movement, and anything else that's attached to muscles. And that comes from the neurons in the brain. The death of the upper and the lower motor neurons that are in the brain end up causing a basic degeneration of muscles, which leads to muscle atrophy as well. You also see hyperreflexivity. They become sort of spastic in the movements. And that's, again, due to the degeneration of those neurons in the brain. All right? So know that ALS is not contagious. ALS, okay, is one of these diseases that is not entirely common. We hear about it. We know people who have had this disease. But know that these particular diseases themselves, it's pretty rare. Okay? Which means that between 1 and 2 people per 100,000 contract ALS or are diagnosed with ALS, not really contract, but get ALS diagnosed every year. Okay? So the reason the ALS has kind of flown under the radar, and this happens with a lot of diseases that don't affect a lot of people, is that it's not really cost effective to do a lot of research on this. So a lot of research comes from federal grants, and it's done at small laboratories or at public institutions or research institutions like colleges. Okay, so ALS is not had a lot of research, and the ALS Foundation is one of these foundations that's trying to look for a cause. Now, because it's a muscle disease, it's very similar to other types of disease like multiple sclerosis, Parkinson's disease. These types of diseases are similar. And as a matter of fact, Parkinson's, people with ALS often exhibit the same type of symptoms that people with Parkinson's do. All right? So it's not entirely pervasive. You get about 30,000 people in the United States who have ALS. So because of the small numbers, there's not a great public need, especially from the pharmaceutical companies, to do a lot of research on these particular drugs. Remember, pharmaceutical companies have to report back to their shareholders, and there has to be a compelling medical reason to research certain drugs. Okay, things like cancer, things like heart disease, the flu, all of these affect millions of people every year. And as a result, those things have a greater public pressure and a greater market for the pharmaceutical companies to explore on this. Not to say that if a drug was developed in academics, that it wouldn't be explored by the pharmaceutical companies and then sold as a treatment for ALS. Okay? But again, the smaller the disease, the harder it is for people to actually start researching it. Okay? So that's the one reason why ALS doesn't have a huge boost to this. One area that's controversial as far as ALS goes, as far as research, all right, and that is the area of stem cell research. Because it's a degenerative disease and it's neurological, because we don't really have a way of regenerating the damaged neurons that are in the brain or damaged neurons that are on the spinal column for any other type of disease like this, stem cells represent a attractive alternative for these types of treatment. Because stem cells, they are pluripotent. They can be used to generate very many different types of tissue. This is why these types of things are attractive. Okay, and if you know stem cell research, there's 2 types of stem cell research. There's the good kind, I like to say. Okay, and The good kind is killed my marker. The good kind, which is adult stem cell. Adult stem cells come from adults, okay? Pluripotent cells from adults. Generally donated, not a big deal, it's like donating blood, right? The other type, because it's Evo, I'll put it in red, is embryonic. Embryonic comes from fertilized cells, okay, fertilized developing fetuses that have been aborted or grown in a laboratory specifically for medical purposes, end up being destroyed. A lot of people, including myself, object to this type of research because we think that life begins at conception. Okay, this is something that's held by the Catholic Church as well. Right? That's not to say that the ALS Foundation is doing bad things. We just prefer that they wouldn't use this money to fund embryonic stem cell research, when in fact adult stem cell research works just as well. Okay, so it's not really evil. If you don't comment on my videos, say it's not evil. We have moral objections to this, okay, as Catholics do, because of our health beliefs, our religious beliefs. We don't think that you should be using embryonic cells for any type of research because of the way that they're produced. Right? Don't have an objection to adult stem cells or any other type of research as well, so long as there's not a destruction of a person involved. Okay? So that's the basics of ALS. Want to raise some awareness about it. Okay? Hopefully you look at this, and if you want to donate money, you can donate money. If you object to this type of thing, just ask ALS Foundation not to use your money to fund that type of research. Okay? There's plenty of other areas of research that are out there that are perfectly acceptable to ALS type research. Okay? And that's not to say that ALS is the only organization that needs your money out there. And if you want to donate money, because ALS Foundation has really raised a lot of money here, okay, raised a lot of money, hopefully they spend it well. There's other organizations out there that have other types of small diseases, okay, that don't affect that many people in the population. All right, MS, okay, that has some foundations associated with it, and there's other smaller diseases out there as well. Okay, so what I recommend you do is, if you really want to donate some money, go ahead and look online somewhere, find some place that is morally acceptable to you for donating money, something that's small, something in the area that really needs your research, and make sure you research them and make sure that they actually give out grants to people who propose things to them. Okay, the ALS Foundation, they actually do this, and they always give up a report on what kind of research that they're funding. Okay, so if you want, I highly recommend you do this, because there's some organizations out there that just raise awareness. Okay, so they raise the awareness, and then they take the money, and then they spend it on cars, right? So make sure that you watch, and make sure that you know that they are in fact donating money to worthy research causes. And in doing this type of thing, hopefully we'll be able to eliminate diseases that do affect a good number of people, but just we haven't been able to fund the research like we should to solve these types of problems. All right? Now I know what you want. You want to see me get dumped in water. Okay? So here it comes. All right. So you've seen the video where I explained everything about ALS and why ALS is bad. So I will send out challenges on Facebook to everybody involved with making this video. Aha, you two! Just kidding. And yeah, so let's do this thing. Woo! You can stop now.